Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially healthcare. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi.
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
All righty, Lionel with you. Hour number 2 of this thing of ours, and this thing of ours is called The Other Side of Midnight, a 4-act play every night as we deeply digest and divest and plumb the depths of, well, parts of the world, parts of our society that you're not going to see on cable news. Our first hour, we talked about true crime and law. Now I want to get into deep state or just the state. Deep state, again, I mentioned this phrase. Deep state is a word that I think is oftentimes confused for what I prefer is a thing called the shadow government. You know, and I know that what Washington presents to us is like a Potemkin village, like a backdrop. It seems like it's like a movie set. This is where governance is. This is what runs the show. But when you talk about this group of people who represent this bureaucratic undergirding, who are these people? Well, let me introduce you to something you may or may not have known. Have you ever heard about the SES, the Senior Executive Service? This was established by the Civil Service Reform Act of 1978, which was signed into law by President Carter. It went into effect in 1979. It was created to act as a bridge, theoretically, between top presidential appointees and the rest of the federal civil service. It was designed to improve efficiency, productivity, and you know that is a lie. The purpose, of course, is to create a third service separate from competitive and accepted services comprising high-level managers with, in some cases, greater flexibility in hiring and compensation. It aimed to improve the professionalism of federal management following the scandal and the growth of Great Society programs. Translation, you want to make sure it is the development and the cemented reality of a deep state, a permanent, almost this permanent government that stays in power no matter what. When Trump first came in, he threatened, it was so beautiful. He was going to sign an executive order basically eliminating just thousands of positions. And that would have been a tremendous improvement, but that, of course, went bye-bye. Critics of this talk about a deep state. Critics of the SES, particularly from conservative perspectives, sometimes refer to the SES as the board of directors of the deep state or a shadow bureaucracy. They will argue, and I think, and this should be listened to, they argue that it acts as a wall between political appointees and the rest of the bureaucracy. And what it does is it potentially thwarts agendas of elected leaders. It cements this separate, permanent power source. The bureaucrats in Pentagon, State Department, etc. Now, think what it does. A number of things. First, The problem with the SES is there's insulation from electoral accountability. The problem with this is that SES officials, again, this is senior executive service. The critics of this argue that these people hold immense operational authority across federal agencies, yet they're not elected and are almost impossible to remove. This creates, as you can understand, a very serious concern about the continuity of policy dependent on what should be voter-driven change, but it's not. They don't care whether you vote for them or not. Then there's bureaucratic entrenchment. Because these SES members often rotate within federal leadership roles, detractors say a closed professional class can emerge. And this reinforces internal norms. This is the permanent creation of, if you will, the shadow government or the deep state. Then you have performance evaluation challenges. The SES has compensation schedules. They have performance bonuses, but watchdog groups have raised questions that the ratings are frequently high across the board and potentially weaken meaningful accountability, meaning we're paying people, they're on their own path to success, and nobody can get rid of them. And there's policy resistance, there's this revolving door. So the point of this is the SES and others represent a system that are in power. It's almost like after World War II, we send in Gladio for the stay behind. It's like these people stay behind, no matter who's in, whether it's Trump, whether it's Biden, it doesn't matter. There's this permanent unelected superstructure in Washington, and this has to be destroyed. Years ago, there was a fellow named Harry Brown. I loved him. He was a libertarian candidate, and he was a good friend of mine. And I'll never forget, he said, if I were president, I would make Washington a ghost town. You would see so many. By the way, do we ever get rid of the Department of Education? I guess. Remember that? We talked about that. Anything else? Did we shut down anything? What did Doge ever do? Did Doge ever shut anything down? Huh? Nope. I don't know. Did we? What about Bobby Kennedy? By the way, why is Bobby Kennedy always showing us he's working out and I'm not wearing a shirt and I'm dipping in the water? This is exhibitionism. Now, listen, I know you like him, but this is silly. Seriously. Stop this. What is this, your own vanity project? We don't care how many pull-ups or push-ups you do. And Pete Hegseth, too. This guy can't wait to do push-ups. Imagine George C. Marshall. Patton couldn't do a push-up. Ike couldn't do. Omar Bradley could barely squat down. These were killers. These are some of the greatest military minds ever. What is happening to us? What is happening to us? We live in a world right now where this government, is this organism that acts independent of anything we vote for, anything we put into power, anything that whatever we want, yeah. We'll get to that eventually. We need to have somebody. Let me tell you what I'd like to do. If I had a TV show, because that's what I think, there are some people who can only watch cable news. I mean it. If it's not on cable news, it doesn't exist. So I would have, every time there's a news story, like, for example, when Trump signed an executive order to close, I don't know how many agencies or what have you, commerce or energy, or to move energy from Washington to some other state. It's just nothing ever happens. We forget about it because we have the attention span of a gnat, like Gore Vidal says, we're the United States of amnesia. We just forget about it. But I would have this woman come out. We'll call her Flo. Maybe she'll wear a muumuu, maybe a house dress. And we'll have this dry erase board kind of on wheels. And we'll take a little Post-it note. And I'll say, Flo, write that down. To close down the Department of Energy, and put that up there. And let's take another issue. Let's put that up there. And the Kurt Cobain thing, whatever. And then Vince Foster. Remember that? Okay. And then every now and then I'd say, bring out Flo. And she brings out this huge dry erase board with all these Post-it notes, meaning all of these issues that we never went back and followed up on. or these issues that we just forgot about. We just forget about them. What's happening in Venezuela? Let me ask you something. Who's running Iraq? How about Afghanistan? What's happening there? Oh, yeah. We just forget. There's no follow-up. Because if it's not on cable news, well, that's a different story. But they'll do 3 nights in a row on what AOC said, making her more popular than ever. See, that's the problem. That's one of the main institutional problems that we have with our government. It's the way we think and the way we don't think. That's the problem.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our country has to offer, especially health care. Across every state, every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.